Good morning. Welcome to the March 19th meeting of the Sunset Beach Environmental Resource Committee. Start out with a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sorry, I was reading something. Pay attention.
First order of business is the draft agenda. Are there any changes anyone cares to make? If not, I would like to get a motion to approve it.
I move that we approve the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next item are the minutes of the February 19th meeting. Are there any changes that need to be made to that? If not, I need a motion to approve them.
I move we approve the meeting minutes for the February meeting.
That's it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next item are, I'll open the floor to public comments on the agenda. There's no public comments, we'll move on to our business. Alan, would you pull up the slideshow, please? I think it's here on the podium.
They're not
Yes, I do. I'm going to apologize ahead of time. This is, as I put this together, it got to be very long because I haven't done this in a couple months. First of all, I thought we should review a calendar of events. The month of March is the month of spring. There's a lot of things happening. And on March 18th, today is the 19th. Yesterday was Global Recycling Day. This is an event that isn't typically recognized in the United States. But for some reason this year it was getting publicity in social media. But if anybody is wondering why we don't celebrate it, it's because we celebrate recycling in a lot of other different ways. The town of Sunset Beach will celebrate recycling as part of the Earth Day, Arbor Day celebration with the Green Wave on May 3rd. And that's where we do our thing to celebrate recycling. We also do a lot of education about recycling. We do it at Earth Day, Arbor Day, and we do it as part of Sunset at Sunset and at other opportunities as they come up during the year. Tomorrow, March 20th, is the first day of spring, lunar spring. We had meteorological spring on March 1st, but when you walk around outside, it feels like spring, so that's good. We had a long winter. It was cold, and we'll talk about that too. But tomorrow is also the day when the middles are due for the Jinks Creek realignment project from engineers who want to submit their qualifications to do that kind of work. So that's a big milestone for the town and the Homeowners Association at Palm Cove. That'll get that project activity started. March 22nd is the day that the North Carolina Forest Service has designated as Arbor Day for the month for the state of North Carolina. That is kind of unique because the National Arbor Day is celebrated on April 25th, and the town of Sunset Beach has decided that we'll do our celebration of Arbor Day as part of the Green Wave event. And these are all fine. They don't have to be celebrated on the same day. The Arbor Day Foundation doesn't really care when Arbor Day is celebrated as long as it happens. So there is a press release that the Forest Service has come out with announcing Arbor Day. And Amy, we were thinking that might be good to do a some kind of a posting on Facebook about Arbor Day,
Yes.
about the Forest Service.
Oh, no, not that.
Okay.
One thing you can do is, a suggestion too, you can create an event page on Facebook,
Amy can
and then you have the agenda of the event. So I see now that all those are great, but like you can create a Green Wave event on Facebook, and then I did one the first year, but then they chose to do their own. But I mean, you could do that, then forward it to groups.
Okay, great.
And then there's a section in there that says, I'm going, interested, maybe. Then you kind of get somewhat of an idea of all the people that are going to attend. Just an idea. I can help you if you want me to.
Next area I want to get into is climate information. We'll look at what happened this winter, what's going on in the spring. It's early, but there's already tropical weather systems being looked at in the Atlantic. And then we'll talk a little bit about sea level rise. These are the winter statistics put together by the Weather Service for all the different areas around here. Our area is most closely associated with North Myrtle Beach. And there's a lot of information here, but basically it says that it was colder than average. We had much less rain than average. It was the coldest winter in 11 years and the driest winter in 14 years. Our rainfall deficit at North Myrtle Beach was 5.56 inches. That's a lot of shortfall on rain. And I'll talk a little bit more about locally here. They do that too often. I'll talk about locally, but I calculated 5.57 inches here in Sunset Beach. So we line up very closely with North Myrtle Beach. But it was a cold, dry winter, as we all know. If we look at what's going on with the La Nina and El Nino world, we're coming out of a La Nina cycle, and we're headed into what's called a cycle of normalcy. The gray lines are the normal conditions. The dark blue are the La Nina. As you'll see, the La Nina never really goes away and starts to come back later on in the year. I'm not really sure what this means. No, I don't think anybody really knows. They're forecasting kind of we could have normal rainfall or we could have a dry season. They're not sure. It really depends on what really happens with La Nina. But as La Nina comes back, it does two things for us. One is it creates dry conditions, further shortfalls on rainfall, but it also gives us some shield against tropical weather systems getting up here. Last year when we were in a La Nina cycle, even though it was weak, most of the tropical weather was south of us and went into the Gulf along the Gulf Coast, and Florida got hit pretty hard by it. But we'll just have to see where this goes. The seasonal outlook temperature for March, April, and May is that we're going to be in a below, we're going to be in an above average temperature period. Now this is a broad range average. There'll be periods of cold, there'll be periods of heat, but overall we're going to be warmer than normal for the next 3 months. One of the interesting things I saw is the average date of the last spring freeze for those people that are gardeners. In Myrtle Beach, North Myrtle Beach, the average last date of a spring freeze is March 15th. So that's already passed us by. But a little bit farther inland, it really goes right up to the end of March. So those of you that are into gardening and planting flowers and such, this is the time of year where you can get started on that, but you're still at a little bit of risk that freeze might occur and damage your plants. But I thought this would be interesting to share. Precipitation wise, last time I showed one of these, we were in a below average period of precipitation, but now we're in a plus or minus, we're in a equal chance of above or below average precipitation. And but what that means is that the drought that we're in right now is going to persist. And with drought come wildfire concerns. March is a period of wildfire concern of a very large area. April, it starts to go down, and May, it's even less, but it's right along the coast. And as I'm sure everyone's been monitoring the wildfires down in Myrtle Beach, it's very close to us, and there's no reason why something like that couldn't happen here if people don't do the right things. From what I've read, they've found that someone was burning yard waste and it got out of control, and that's what ignited the fires down there. And I believe it had burned like 2,000 acres of forest land. Fortunately, it only did some minor damage to homes, but it could have been a lot worse. We look at the tropical weather outlook. Right now, there's an area of focus out in the middle of the Atlantic. They don't expect it to really develop too much, but they're keeping an eye on it. It's very early for tropical systems to form. Hurricane season doesn't begin till June 1st. And here we are in the middle of March. But I remember the first year I moved here, there was a big tropical storm that came in May, and that was very impactful because it brought in a tremendous amount of rain. Fortunately, not without the high winds. But anyway, the Atlantic is starting to show signs of awakening, and it's being looked at closely. The other thing I've been reading about is global sea level change. And this surprised me, but global sea level change rose faster in 2024 because of ocean warming. As the ocean warms, the volume of water expands, so the level of water in the ocean rises. According to NASA, the rate of rise was only 0.23 inches, and I think people will say, well, that's not very much. but it's 35% greater than it was expected to be. And when you add that up over a period of time, it amounts to something significant. 2/3 of the rate increase was from the ocean water temperature rise, and the other third was from melting ice sheets and glaciers. In prior years, 2/3 of the rate increase was attributed to the melting, but now that's flipped around to the ocean water temperature. And if that continues to happen, then that'll have a bigger impact on things. And last month I shared that the forecast for sea level rise in along our coastline was 9 inches out until about 2050, which is basically 25 years from now. If that's 35% greater in that time period, we'll go from 9 inches to a foot. And a foot of sea level rise can be very impactful along the coast, particularly with the tides and storms that go with it. So this is something that has to be monitored, and this is changing. So I'd like to kind of update you on the rainfall locally here. Rainfall in December, January, and February was 5.57 inches below average, which is only 49% of our normal rainfall over the last 30 years. And as the Weather Service said, that's the driest winter we've had in 14 years. So far in March, the rainfall has, we've had more rain, and we're up to about 89% of normal as of this week. So we have a good chance of achieving our normal rainfall or maybe going above it. That could be attributed to the shift of going from La Nina into the period of normalcy. Hopefully we're getting back to a more normal rainfall cycle, and we'll see more rain this spring. That'll help everybody's yards and gardens, and it'll also help the ponds and lakes in town with algae and plant growth. We'll move into the Jinks Creek Tubbs Inlet study that we've done, that we're doing. We look at the king tide calendar for this year. We don't really have any king tides expected until out in April, I'm sorry, and then in May. And we don't get into any really strong periods of high tides until the fall, in September, October, November, and December. This is a pattern that we've seen the last 2 years, so that's not surprising. But we did have one event in January on the 20th and 21st. I'm sure everybody remembers that snowfall that we had. That brought some high tides and some very high wave action along the coast. And that seemed to have an impact on Tubbs Inlet. We go back to January 18th, which was basically the day before the storm first arrived. We look at the inlet. The one big change that I see is that the mouth of the inlet has oscillated to the east. So it's like the tail of a dog. It has swung to the left. In prior months, that channel has been not dead straight, but a lot straighter than it is right now. And this is a pattern that happens frequently. But when that inlet moves to the east, what that does is as the high tides come in, these pictures are taken at low tide. As high tides come in and storms arise and we get higher than normal tides, that water flowing through there will scour the edge of the spit there and actually move that channel to the west, to the left. And we are seeing the impact of that on the spit. One of the volunteers from the Palm Cove Homeowners Association, Louis Petard, has been getting satellite images and is providing some maps that show how that is impacting on that spit. And I don't have that data yet, but we hope to have it in time to share with the engineers working on the realignment project. But it is happening. Fortunately, it's not happening at as high a rate as we thought it might. So, but it is happening. We go to February 28th, 10 days after the last pictures, and this was after the storm. This picture shows the footprint of the dredging that was done in the past. The dark area is where the town dredged out the Bay Area for navigational reasons. And here we see the Jinks Creek. This is Palm Cove over here. Jinks Creek goes up into the center of the connection of the inlet and the creeks. And Jinks Creek goes on off behind Ocean Isle Beach. There isn't a big change yet in the angle of the inlet coming in from the ocean, but we'll see more later. This is the shoreline on Palm Cove. The dark area is a big, deep spot in the creek that's formed by the swirling of the waters as they come in, as the tide comes in up against the shoreline. It swirls and has dug out a hole there. This looks from the down the spit towards the ocean, and it's quite a bit narrower than it was 6 months ago. But the thing of it is that the channel and the creeks are so shallow that I don't think there's not as much water flow through there, and you don't get as much erosion from it. Now, what this picture shows that's most interesting is the line of breakers out in the ocean. And this shows how far out the delta has grown. In fact, you see an area of sandy soil here right in the middle. And that's because the tide's low enough that the sand pops up out of the water. And you see the line of breakers, that's very much like it is along the beach. That's how shallow the water is out there because of the sand that's building up out there. Are there any questions about the inlet? Steve, do you have any other comments to make?
Oh, except that in that picture where you had shown where the dredging had occurred, that speed bump is clearly visible on that. Right there.
Right there.
Yeah, people have commented at council meeting about the speed bump. And when they come out of the canals and they want to go up North Jinks Creek, they run into this area of sand, and that's been called the speed bump. And that's been there from the beginning. The town originally had wanted to dredge that out of there and clear that out of the way. but the permitting agencies wouldn't allow that. So that is an oversight or an omission. It was it was something that we were prohibited from doing. So we'll move into the Twin Lakes. This is a recent set of photographs that John Wells took for us. This is the East Lake. And if we look at the East Lake from high above, it looks very good. It looks very clear. The one thing that when you look closely, you'll see these little white dots on the screen, and that's where the aerators are that are bubbling up the water that keep things circulating, and that's one of the reasons why the lakes look so good.
John, do you know about when he took these?
Pardon?
When he took these? Within the last, I don't know, when the photos were taken?
The drone.
28th of February.
28? Okay.
Very, very recent.
Yeah.
Here on the top is Shoreline Drive, so we're looking to the south. This is from Shoreline Drive looking north. And this looks really good. Now in the winter, there's not much plant growth, so we aren't seeing the first signs of plant growth. Although if you look real close along the shore of here and up in here and up in that area, there are plants that are starting to grow. Thing we have to do is determine if those plants are native and natural, or if they're invasive and bad for the lake. The lake should never look like a swimming pool. You need weeds in there for habitat for the fish and the wildlife. So, but the East Lake is looking good, and the feedback we're getting from people that live there is very good. This is another picture, and I zoomed in on the white dots to show where the aerators are located and that they're working. So that's a real good there. Dustin, that's a thumbs up for the town. Now this is over the south end of the lake. You see at the bottom, you see the birdwalk observation deck. And I put this picture in because over here in the corner, all right. Over here, there's a lot of weeds growing. So, Dustin, I think we should point out to Stillwater that they ought to take a look at this and see what kind of weeds they are and what they should be doing about it. But that this area and the other areas along the shoreline, they could be natural, so they could be healthy, but they are showing up. So I don't know what they are. So if you could talk to them about that. This is the West Lake. And there's still a lot of weeds out in the West Lake. But there's a lot less of them now than there were 6 months ago. And that area of weeds does seem to be shrinking. Candy disagrees with that. We've gotten reports from other people that there's a lot more signs of wildlife and fish action out in the lakes than there's been. But we knew when treatment started, that it was going to take time. But now that the growing season's coming in, hopefully the treatments will will start being more effective.
From that one, John, it looked like they were out in the middle as well as the shoreline. I mean, it looks like it's not just on the shoreline. Is that the case? From what I can see over here.
This didn't show the weeds on the shoreline that the other one did, but I expect that they're still there. But
I think when they were treating, it seemed like they were first focusing on clearing the weeds, the grasses, the heavy growth along the shoreline. My guess would be as a courtesy to the property owners, that they were clearing it where it's most obnoxious, and then because they can't spray the whole lake at once, they can only treat a portion of it. If they treat too much vegetation drops into the lake, it deoxygenates the lake as it decomposes, and would lead to kind of the death of the lake. So they can only treat parts of it at a time, and I think they tried first treating where it was most obvious to those of us living there. And so I think seeing the shorelines clearer, you're seeing that the effect of that treatment.
well, from looking at photographs over a period of time, that area in the middle does seem to be shrinking.
Yeah, the whole thing is the whole lake, I think, is looking better. But that's where she was saying, well, what about along the shoreline? The shorelines are clearer because they started there with their treatments.
I wanted to talk a little bit about the tree board. The tree board was appointed at the March 3rd council meeting. Steve Hines, Steve Levine, Candace Sybin, Rebecca Spatch, and Susan Willits were appointed by the town council to form the tree board. This is important so that the town can go forward to get the tree board activities begun, and that'll complete the actions required for us to achieve Tree City USA status for the town. Of course, Steve and Candace are here today. They're members of the ERC. We thank them for stepping up to do this additional work for the town. Rebecca and Susan are new participants in this activity. Unfortunately, they haven't been sworn in yet, and there hasn't been an initial meeting of the tree board, but hopefully that'll occur soon, and they can begin their activities. If you want to know more about the tree board, you can go on the town website, and under the departments category, there's a list of boards and committees, and down at the bottom of that list is the tree board. So you can click on that, and you'll come to this page, which tells you about the mission and the purpose of the tree board. And so there's a lot of good information there. Kimberly's done a good job putting all this out there for people to look at. And over on the right side is a flyer that Amy's added to save the date for the Green Waves, which includes the Earth Day and Arbor Day celebration. So there's a lot of good information there if you want to know more about what's going on. Kimberly's done a lot of work for the town on improving the website, and we've worked with her on improving the ERC input to the town website. The one thing that I like the most, because it's easy, is on the homepage for the town. She's got these buttons, and one of them says environment. And if you click on the environment button, that'll take you right to the ERC page. And it'll tell you about the ERC. And we've got boxes below that you can click on to learn more about the different subcommittee activities that we have. We still have more work to do. This will be a process of continuous improvement,
Yeah.
but we've got a good start at it. And thank Kimberly and the committee members for working on this.
Thank you, Kimberly.
Mm-hmm.
It's beautiful.
So much easier to navigate.
Yep.
The last thing that I wanted to put up here were the ERC subcommittees. In 2024, we had 3 subcommittees that were that existed. The climate subcommittees with Steve Hines and myself, lakes and ponds with Steve and Jennifer and Mila, and the green subcommittee with Candace, Steve Levine, and Kathy Trent. And we're going to talk about the subcommittee makeup for 2025 at the end of the meeting. But this is the structure, the organization of the ERC for the past year. Did I get this right? Did I make any mistakes?
I think it's right.
Okay. Thank you, Alan. That's it. Oh, that work? Okay. So we'll go down the agenda item here. We've talked about Tubbs Inlet. We talked about Palm Cove. Updated the climate. The subcommittee discussions on ponds and lakes. Dustin, can you update us on the work that Stillwater's done and what's planned for coming up?
Stillwater is planning on to be here next week to start hitting the east and west lake of Twin Lakes for the submerged grasses. To do that because it's starting to come out of the dormant stage, so it's starting to grow. So they'll be out there next week to take care of that with that period. And the other ponds back here, nothing's still treating algae and all that that's appeared back here in the other ponds behind us. So that's there's plans for to take care of the east and west lake right now.
And they'll continue that every month thereafter?
Yes. Yeah. Contract. He comes every once a month and looks at them, treats them, whatever needs to be done to them, he does. But we'll definitely take a look at that area at the bottom of the East Lake and see what that is.
You trim bushes around the East Lake. I know though where the
Yep.
alligator stand is, so that helps. But you're talking about chemical treatments, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Any questions for Dustin?
Dustin, do you know if he measure? I know, aren't they measuring pH level and that kind of thing? Are they? Or
I'll
no?
have to
Taking
ask.
sample.
I'll have to ask about that.
Okay. I know we talked about that, maybe
Mhm.
taking samples so we'd have a record of what progress
Okay.
they're making.
Yeah, I'll ask about that.
One of the things I speculated with John, where I saw that the corner of the East Lake where there's some vegetation growing,
hmm
is that the rest of the lake is well aerated with those bubblers, but it could be maybe that corner's just not getting any circulation.
I will check with him on that,
Ask
and we'll
him.
definitely look at that and see what we need to do. If we need to add another one, or need to move one, or what do we need to do.
Yeah, I think that's something that definitely could be looked at.
Yep, we'll look
Thanks.
at it.
Dustin, could you also ask him, because one of the things we hear from the neighborhood is that the areas where the two lakes kind of come together and the drainage pipe runs under that whatever that is over there, if they would look at those areas, because they tend to be areas where there's a lot of everything seems to wash into those areas, and then we get a lot of plant growth there. And I know when Rob Emmons came, at least in the West Lake in that area, it was starting to grow that was it parrot feather grass, or there were a couple of invasive species that were really
Mhm.
congregating there. So if they can make sure those don't get to take over as spring growth starts.
I'll remind him, but he does come up in there, but we'll definitely take a look at it.
Yeah, I know they go in there and treat
Yep.
just to really take a look at those areas. I think would be reassuring to the people that are
Will do.
living there. Thank you.
And he looks at the other lakes too, and they, right? In
The other
town?
ponds,
Yeah.
yeah,
the
they
small
check them.
ponds.
Yep, they once a month they come and check them too.
So he treats those
Yep.
as just identical to what he would
Yep.
do the others, just
Yes.
so everybody who's on the other lake knows. Okay.
Yeah, along with Twin Lakes, the other 10 that we have with that, he checks them every
All right.
month.
Okay.
So there's a fountain that has been not functioning for a couple months. You know, if the people, well, it's just a spray aerator, I guess. In one of the
Where
town ponds, you know. I don't know if the town put it in there or if it's somebody's private.
when the pond's back here behind us,
Yeah,
yeah, some of them had already had a fountain in it. We
Right.
put additional fountain in it.
Mhm.
The one to the if you're on Shoreline Drive East and you're looking at the pond is next to Waterway, the fountain to the left is private. The one to town to the right is the one town put in. So if it's the one to the left, it's a private one.
all right,
Okay.
that's one I think that's not working.
Okay.
That's a
So-
residence.
Maybe they turn it off for the winter, I don't know.
Yeah.
Do we manage all the ponds in Sea Trail?
No. We don't have nothing to do with Sea Trail, Sandpiper, none of them.
Okay.
Oyster Bay. All we got is Twin Lakes, East and West Lake back here behind us, and Power Station 2 out there.
Okay.
Do you know if we've gotten any feedback from Rob Evans about their suggestions for improving our program?
Mhm.
No, not yet.
Okay.
Okay.
I haven't heard anything back yet.
Any other questions? Thank you, Dustin.
Well,
Next item, grants and funding updates. Jennifer, anything new to add?
Well, I was going to ask about the thing from Rob Evans, so we haven't heard back from them. Just Lisa, it's up to him, I think. And then the stormwater grant, the DWR, I did reach out to Elliot Swain, who's our county director for stormwater, and I sent a joint email to the regional director to find out more about that grant. And then we'll have to get with Lisa to see if the town's interested if we qualify for that one. That's a DWR one. So that's pretty much it for that.
Thank you.
So I'm just curious, how many grants are outstanding that we're trying to?
Two that I know of. Two that I know of.
Okay.
I mean, I have to think about any others. One, Ron Evans, she's responded to him because we had a deadline and we had to give him some information. And I don't think he's come back yet, right, Dustin? And then the other one, we're trying to see what criteria we'd have to do and how it would benefit the town. I have to get with Lisa on that.
Okay.
And that deadline is June 1st, so I'm trying to push that
What
forward.
grant is that?
It's a DWR stormwater grant.
Okay.
So it's a match grant, so I'm interested in it because we could use staff and volunteer time to match some of it without dollars.
Okay.
Okay.
Moving on to, let's see, we've talked about the aquatic weed grant.
We got shoreline planning. Can we talk about that, John?
The town ponds and lakes update, I think that's been covered.
Just
Anything on the shoreline planning flyer?
We met once. We haven't been able to meet the second time. Mila's been gone, but we were working on it and a possible community, right, Candace, community class that people would sign up for. We want to have maybe a sign up sheet at Greenway to see what community interested there would be really in shoreline planning, and then have them do a demonstration class for people on the proper way to do it and what certain grasses would work in certain areas so they'll be successful. So that's where we are on that. And we're supposed to meet in the next week or so.
How are we educating the property owners around the lake about what plants and grasses to plant and what grasses and plants not to plant.
She
wanna
has
take that?
done a ton, Jennifer's done a ton of work trying to determine that. I know Amy Mead is the county extension, the cooperative extension director now, but she is there sort of the expert on this, and she has done classes on shoreline plantings. So we're trying to figure out, I think Jennifer's done a lot of work trying to figure out which plants would be good in our area. I think the first chance to really educate people will be at Green Wave, so that we can make people aware that this is recommended that we do this to protect the waters, and then to solicit interest in doing a class maybe at the community center for people who live along the shoreline or are interested in it to come in and learn about plantings. One of the concerns is always people have cleared the shoreline so that they can enhance their view, and so we need plants that will do the job without disrupting the view too much. So it's a little more complicated when you're dealing with all these residential places where there's.
I guess I'm thinking we've got like 6 weeks until the Green Wave.
She's done a lot of work.
Yeah.
She's
Yeah,
got
but
a
I got a
binder.
list. You don't even want to know how many nurseries I've contacted for a list of. What I wanted was native plants that would grow with low maintenance, that would be low enough to provide a view, the grasses for a view, and not be obtrusive, and also the nutrient stuff we have to look at. Is it not harmful and that kind of stuff? So several of the nurseries I've talked to are willing to do it, but we also want. I don't think the class would be before Green Wave. We were saying we'd get interest at Green Wave, see, and then hold a class maybe over the summer. The more successful time to do the planting, John, would be in the fall, from what we can tell, so they won't get harmed during the summer heat. So that's what we're looking at in terms of a planting calendar.
Would it be possible to make like a flyer of, if you're planting along the shoreline, plant these plants.
Yeah.
Don't
That's
plant
our
these
goal.
other plants. And we can send that out or post that to the public.
Maybe on the
Almost,
website.
very before Green Wave,
We could,
because people are going to start
Yeah.
planting in their yards.
soon.
very
So
soon.
you're looking for a document that could go on the website?
Maybe on the
or-
Yeah,
website.
you could
Or
put
what?
a
'Cause
put
it
a
won't-
dot on the, like you said, a circle on the website for
Maybe
Well,
a
it
dot.
could be, it could be on the website.
Under environment.
Because
Well,
they're-
it could be on Facebook,
Mm-hmm.
could be on the website,
Okay.
it could be on everything.
Okay.
right.
Just so people know that here is what they should be planting, and don't plant these other plants, or we're going to have to go around and kill them all.
Yeah. Or you won't have a view, or the other thing you think about is you don't want to planting
No.
stuff really close to the shoreline, because we do have alligators at some of the lakes, and I don't want to be responsible
There's
for somebody going down to
We
plant a
come-
plant they recommend but getting whacked. by
Well,
it.
the
I
extension
welcome you
also
to
has-
come out to my yard and look at this type of grasses that are there, because I let
Okay.
all the grasses grow as a
Okay.
barrier.
Okay.
So my neighbor built a $50,000 seawall,
Yeah.
Yeah.
not on the other side where you
Right.
could, in the sea,
Uh-huh.
the grasses that are there act as a seawall.
Instead, yeah.
You
A
can look at
natural
what's there.
seawall.
The key thing on anything near the shoreline is if it's salt resistant.
Exactly.
Because if it's not salt resistant, as soon as there's an event, it'll
Wave.
kill it all.
Mhm.
There are
Exactly.
quite a few extension and what's the coastal initiative? It's the coastal
But it's-
organization, John, that you send us information from. They send us like the daily update almost. At any rate, there are several organizations that are coastal organizations that do have lists of plants, so I don't think it'll be that difficult to get those.
Yeah.
And it may be something that we could give
Have a
Amy, because the
Right.
markets will be starting soon, and have like a little brochure of those available at the
At
marketplace.
the area, yeah. That'd be good.
Yeah, so I
don't know. I just
think,
thought it'd be good to get that information out while
Out.
people are
sure.
When they're
in the
doing
mood
it,
to
yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
I don't think most of them
Okay.
are probably planting along their waterfront.
Yes.
Yeah.
But some are.
Okay, next
come see
item
you,
is the Green Subcommittee.
Green Subcommittee's primarily been working on Green Wave with Amy. Thankfully, Amy's there to help us. I think it's going to be a very successful event this year. We've got quite a few people, both participants and vendors, that have committed to come and that's been our focus.
We also, with the help of Amy and Kimberly, you saw the Facebook page posting.
Mhm.
So there's a number of activities that we have planned going forward
Mhm.
in terms of getting the notices out, the flyers to the schools to make sure
Yeah.
the children potentially could come. So we have those in process right now, I would say.
Mhm.
Do we know how many have committed to coming? I'm looking at Candace's list. I didn't have that.
It's about 20.
Could we ask Amy for the current count, because
Yeah.
we met last week
Mhm.
Hi,
and
Amy.
Amy's done a great job on keeping everything organized, tabbed. So thank you, Amy.
Sure. I don't have the current count myself, but
Yeah.
I sent you a document
did.
yesterday, and it has marked down next to each person who's coming whether they're confirmed or and their application's
So she
been
knows.
received. And then also there is an additional tab that shows the vendors that are going to be participating. So those will be
Ah,
there as well.
Okay.
Amy, for the people that have maybe verbally committed, but they haven't sent the application, do we need to be calling them to get, do you need the application?
I
Because I've
just
had a few of the smaller guys just tell me, well, I told you I'm coming.
Yeah. If you want to tell me those people who you know you have verbal commitments from, I'm
Yeah.
fine. I don't need the application. It's not an insurance thing or anything like that. I just need to make sure I know
Yeah.
what if they are coming,
need something.
if they need something.
And I know in this last week or so, we're getting back more of the, tried but can't make it or whatever. So we can get together and update
Okay.
that.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
But thank you for all your help.
And organization.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Certified wildlife habitat discussion. My understanding now, and correct me if I'm wrong, but all the members of the ERC have gotten certified as wildlife habitats. Is that true?
That's right.
Yes.
Okay, so that's good. Now we can start asking other people to do it. You don't ask somebody else to do what you don't do yourself.
And Amy's putting those brochures together, so we'll have them available for Green Wave to start a push for this.
I might not have seen it, but is there something on the website about joining the National Wildlife, John?
I don't think
I don't think I saw
there
that.
is. We can probably
Maybe we could put
have
that on there. for the
Yeah, I
council.
think that's something we have to add.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um, the
It is on there?
just
Okay.
as
I was gonna-
another side note about being certified wildlife habitats,
Mhm.
we get enough people in town certifying their properties as wildlife habitats, then the town can get designated as a wildlife habitat.
Mhm.
And that would be a unique distinction for Sunset Beach. There's only
Yeah.
one other town, I believe, in Brunswick County that's done that. That's the St. James community. So that would be a real
Boost.
feather in our cap, so to speak. But it's good for the environment to do that.
And maybe a next step there is that we start working to see if there are town properties that we could have certified. You get, those can be included as part of our process, and any of the commercial properties as well.
I imagine the town park already does qualify.
Probably I
does.
would think it would.
Yeah.
It's got,
That's true.
And,
it's got the 4 things there that you need. So
We could probably get the Twin Lakes certified as wildlife habitat. They certainly meet the criteria.
well, they got plenty of wildlife there. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's a great idea.
That is a good idea.
I'll have to look in. I will look into it before the next meeting. What do we have to do to certify these
Yeah.
like public areas?
Mhm.
Good.
And probably Majestic Oaks would qualify.
Yes.
You might, yeah.
And if we could put a bird bath out front, town hall would probably qualify.
Next item is Tree City USA update. The big thing there is the tree board. Now that the tree board's been established, once they get sworn in and operational, then I think that's the last requirement the town had to meet to submit the application for certification, so we'll be able to move that forward. We talked about the website. The last item are the organization of subcommittees. We put up the list of subcommittees with the members associated with it. Are there any members who would like to change their subcommittee activity? If there aren't, then we can go ahead with the same subcommittee makeup for 2025. I don't think that requires a motion or anything. But if anybody wants to make a change, you can bring it up and we can talk about it.
Can I go back to the Tree City thing? The tree committee, I think it would, as a suggestion, if we could do it around the ERC meeting, it would be great, since 3 out of 5 of us are together already, unless anybody's opposed to that. I would just, as a suggestion, it'd be easier. I like to knock it out at the same time if possible. You know, have the meeting around that time.
Well, and you also know you're not conflicting with any of the other town meetings, planning
Yeah.
board or.
Yeah, that's just my
ERC or-
suggestion on that.
That would be great.
That would be good. The only thing is this meeting is supposed to go till noon, and you wouldn't want to start another meeting at noon.
Right.
So,
We could do lunch break and come back at 1.
Or you could start at 9.
Earlier.
start at 9.
Yeah.
Earlier.
But the
I-
tree
yeah,
board
I'd start
only
at 8.
the tree board
Well,
only
but it's
meets.
for the public.
Quarterly, right?
Tree board is only required to meet once every
Quarter.
quarter,
Right.
Oh, okay.
so it's not every month.
Okay.
So
So just FYI, I'm not gonna. My daughter's having a baby, so in April I probably won't be here. I'll be seeing a baby
Yay.
Mm-hmm.
in Spain. So
Oh.
it's not in Wilmington. So just FYI.
all right, so our subcommittees will remain the same for 2025. So that ends our business discussion. Are there any comments from the public about our meeting today? All right, then we have ended the meeting. I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all very much.